Hey everybody, welcome to your readings for the week. And these are the readings for the week ending January 28th. So our last full week of January before we move on into February. Usual, we're just trucking along there. Not really a crazy week this week, but let's go ahead and jump in and see how it is for everybody. And of course, we're going to start with Darcy. Hi, Darcy. Let's take a look, see here. So we do have Uranus moved into a square with the sun, actually. It starts off actually with the moon at the beginning of the week and then moves into a square with the sun by the end of the week. So because the sun is just moving along in there, just moved into Aquarius, by the end of the week, we're only 8 degrees into Aquarius. So this is going to go on for all through next week and then should break up again after next week, probably the week after. And then we don't have any more planets in square with Uranus, except for whenever the moon comes into Aquarius. It'll be a thing, but it won't be as long of a thing as it was when Saturn was there. So that's the good news. We're also going to end this week with the moon in Taurus, which is going to heat things up a little bit as well, especially as it starts to move into conjunction with Uranus and moves into that square with the sun as well. So that's going to be a little bit difficult. We continue to have focus on the inner trauma, which is not fun and not pleasant, and nobody wants it. But unfortunately, we all have to from time to time. And the sun's and the moon's focus in Aquarius will be on career. Now, having trauma coming up when you're trying to focus on your career goals, that is definitely a challenge for anybody, specifically because honestly, that's not a point in your life that you want your trauma to be coming up in. So I kind of see this playing out in a couple of different ways for you. One, I feel like there may be a situation coming up at work this week to where it feels like somebody is railroading you or somebody is making decisions on your behalf and not necessarily talking to you about it. It seems like it's like a very old pattern. Like, here I go again with not having a voice and not being heard. And the thing that you absolutely don't want to do is get quiet and hope that somebody understands or somebody notices that you're being quiet and notices that there's a problem. That is a thing that I've seen a lot of Tauruses do that just it absolutely does not work. And the thing that is that it just pisses the Tauruses off that everybody else is not picking up on that. Whether they don't see it or choose not to see it is neither here nor there. It's all about communication. This is really the first week after the Mercury retrograde. We're still a little bit in the shadow period at this point, at least up until Thursday. So with that being said, there is still going to be some Mercury retrograde issues, but Mercury is all about communication. And the reason that we have so many Mercury retrogrades, I mean, obviously there's physical reasons why we have so many Mercury retrogrades, but for us, it gives us multiple opportunities to focus on how we're communicating and how we're miscommunicating, which is really the big thing. Most of us are miscommunicating. If something is off and it's not right, you need to say something. You need to tell them, hey, this isn't cool. This person is doing this to me. I am not going to stand for this person doing it to me. You get to talk to the person. I'm not going to stand for you doing this to me. We're trying to get comfortable here in my chair. You have to stand up and say something, and it is absolutely your responsibility. Nobody else is going to do it for you, or it's possible that somebody will, but it needs to come from you. That's the bottom line there with that. The good news is that Mercury is in a trine with Uranus this week, so that's also helpful. And Uranus is retrograde at the beginning of the week, but that retrograde ends finally by the end of the week. Also, it ends this week. So with how you've been doing things. Uranus is kind of a funny planet, okay? It's not about doing things traditionally. It's about breaking out of tradition and finding a whole brand new way of doing things. Now, in retrograde, we do take that back to traditional ways, but as we're moving out of that retrograde, it's time to bust this problem out and not necessarily always use the same way that you've solved the problem before. Now we're looking for new ways of solving the problem, new ways of communicating the issue, new ways of dealing with this problem, because the old ways maybe just don't work anymore. And if you've tried the old way and it's not working, it's time to reach into your arsenal of tools to find a new way of approaching that. So that's what I have for you this week, Darcy. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to Jeannette. We have Mars in Gemini, and we have Mars actually moving into a grand sextile with the Sun and Jupiter this week. So Jupiter's focus is on your inner trauma, which is kind of weird. But sometimes releasing your inner trauma really helps you to move forward. So I kind of look at this as, I mean, you've been through the ringer the last few months of the year with your neck surgery and all of that. I kind of look at this as starting to do more of some of the things that you really haven't been able to do, and just making sure that you're not allowing your fears of what's happened before to influence that, if that makes sense. And the moon and the sun's focus is on career. So part of that focus of these things that you want to do it revolves around money and career, and how you're going to generate that, if that makes sense. These planets are lining up to be helpful in these things. Specifically because Mars is focused on self, and Mars has a tremendous amount of energy. I would describe Mars energy as your energy, to be honest, because you're always bebopping around doing all kinds of things, like a lot of Geminis that I know. So I feel like you're picking things up. You're picking up the pace a little bit, is actually how I wanted to say that. You're picking up the pace a little bit, getting back into what feels more like a little bit of a normal energy for you, and in terms of getting things done. But I don't want you to push yourself too much, okay? It's good to get a few more things done. Let's not jump right to where Jeannette was before she had the surgery, if that makes sense. Or more likely, let's not jump right to Jeannette when she was 20, because I feel like that's actually where you're trying to get to. Is sort of this place where it's like, I just want to get right back to where I was before all this next stuff happened. And I don't see that necessarily. I mean, you're still going to have some things that hold you back a little bit, but not to the extent that it has been the last few months. So you're getting into a groove again, and that's really good. It's really helpful. It's definitely going to make things a heck of a lot easier for you. So that's what I have for you. By the way, nice new car. I really like it. I did see a picture of it. Yes, I didn't comment on it, but I did see a picture. Very nice. Good for you. And just keep doing little trips until you get comfortable to do a little bit more. Okay. Moving on to Connie, focus is on the home this week, and there's really no planets coming in to focus on, to influence that focus, I should say. Focus continues to be on the home. We do have the dark moon influencing your sign right at the beginning of the week. But she is retrograde, so we're literally talking Sunday, Monday, and then she kind of moves on out of there. With that dark moon influence, her influence is all about change, drastic changes. With the retrograde, we're gonna kind of sort of backwards that, so it's like no change, if that makes sense, which for fixed signs is actually better, really. But I feel like this week there really isn't a whole lot of time for you to focus on home, or any kind of home projects or anything like that, because I see this week as being actually really busy, in terms of appointments with work, but also with family stuff as well. So maybe, stuff involving your dad or something like that. Not necessarily family stuff as in the normal bullshit. There might be a little bullshit, but I don't see like a lot of that, if that makes sense. This is more maybe needing to be there for whatever reason, in terms of his care or his entertainment. It could be his entertainment too, not your entertainment, but possibly his. So I'm not, what I'm saying here is that I'm not seeing like it's not that you're not home at all, it's more like you haven't had as much time sitting at home as you have in the past few weeks. Also, your work schedule does seem to be getting a little bit heavier in terms of the appointments that you're getting. It's like more of them are coming into your schedule. So I don't see your week quite completely filled up yet, but I do see that coming fairly soon, in the next few weeks or so. Anyways, by my birthday on the 15th, for sure, you're going to have a full week. So I am seeing that. The other thing that I'm picking up for you this week as a thing, all right, I don't really know what this is, other than to say I kind of see an interaction, that you have two crazy neighbors. Well, there was one that's a friend and one that's a neighbor, I think, but it's the friend who does the health business that's, never there when you need her, and then there's the other one that's with the popsicle lady, I think, is the other one. I kind of see an interaction with one of those people, or somebody like that, where it's like, I don't see it as being like a huge big deal, as in it's the worst thing in the world that you're dealing with it, but it is annoying, and you just want to be mindful that it doesn't take up your whole mental focus, because the actual interaction is like this big, and you just don't want your brain to project it out to like this big, to where that's all you can think about, and it's infiltrating you working, and it's infiltrating you focusing on things that you need to be focusing on that are not important, which that whole thing is not important. I don't see it as something necessarily that you did. It's more like you're being accused of something that you haven't even done, if that makes sense. So look at it for the stupidity it is, and try not to internalize it, I think, is where I'm going with that. So that's what I have for you, Connie. Moving on to Jenny, we don't have any planets influencing Leo this week. Focus is on the home, like you have any time to be there. Last week of January, so a couple of things come up with that, really. One, I kind of feel the end of the week is important. The weekend, maybe not scheduling anything outside the home, taking the time to be home, relax as much as you can. The shit is gonna hit the fan starting next week, so I feel like this weekend is a really good opportunity for you to rest as much as possible, get some things done that you need to get done at home, those kinds of things, rather than trying to socialize. And I kind of feel like that may be a decision. Do I stay at home and rest, or do I go out to this really fun thing that these people are doing? It's not to say that you can't do both. I am just saying it's probably not a good idea to overbook yourself with a whole lot of stuff, so that you have some time to to ground and get ready, because it's about to go down. First of all. Second of all, I keep getting organization needed, and I'm not trying to come in here and say that you're an unorganized person. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I almost want to say that there's something, whether it's at home or in the office or even in your car. It could be in your car. It's like, this space is so unorganized. It's driving me crazy. And um I feel like if you don't deal with that this week, you're not going to have time to deal with it for a while. So, if you that might be something that you want to be looking into this week, to make sure it's not something that needs to be organized. Like, your life is going to fall apart if it's not. It's more like, I would interpret that to be when my linen closet is disorganized to where everything's supposed to have a place, but it's all over the place. It just drives me crazy. And so, and that's what I feel is happening, is it's just not organized in a way that makes sense to you, and it's just driving you crazy. So, and I don't see it as like a huge project that's going to take all day either. So it might just be something for you to focus on this week, so that it's not something, the frustration that's just infiltrating into everything else that you have. It's done. You can be frustrated at work and come home and open that closet and go, but this is so organized, and it just makes me feel better, if that makes sense, because it's done, basically. So that's what I have for you, Jenny. And I'm going to move over to Linda. We have no planets in Virgo. And for the bulk of the week, actually, focus is up in the air. You can focus on whatever you want, which is good. I know what you're going to focus on, but kind of in between focus at the beginning of the week, and then we move into focus on those you love, and not necessarily in a bad way either. What I'm picking up from that, really, in terms of focus on you love or focus on those you love, is just maybe some more focus on Clark than work, if that makes sense. So there may be some doctor appointments coming up, maybe more discussions on things that he needs, or spending time looking at, I know you've been looking at places to move to. There may be some time doing that's sort of infiltrating your work schedule, if that makes sense. The good news too is that I don't see a lot of confusion, if I can talk, or any frustrations that are coming up around work this week. So that is good, because things kind of sort of just get done as they're supposed to get done, leaving you free to be able to focus your energy in other directions as well. I am also picking up a little bit of one of your daughters, and I'm not sure. I don't necessarily see a problem. It's more like maybe one of them is taking up a little bit more time than they normally do, or they need a little bit more time than they normally would, if that makes sense. So it's more one of those instances where they're coming to you because they have a problem, and they need your input to kind of steer through the problem to see what the best course of action is. And I think they already know what they need to do. It's more of like a validation or a confirmation from you that is needed there. So it's not like you have to do anything. It's sort of more just to kind of help steer and guide them through what it is that they're dealing with currently right now. And it seems pretty easy peasy. I mean, from my point of view anyways, it's never easy peasy when it's your problem. But I kind of feel that you're going to feel that way too, that it's not a difficult thing. It's not something that's time consuming. It's a conversation that you can have in 20 minutes, and and sort of come up with the solution and be done with, you know, those problems that we wish every problem was like that, honestly. So that's what I have for you, Linda. And I am moving on to Matalyn. We're going to start off the week with kind of no focus. It's like you're in between focuses, if that makes sense. So that means you just get to choose whatever it is that you want to focus on, or focus on nothing and just rest. That's what you want to do. As we move into the week, focus moves into focus on those you love. For Virgos, I think Virgos focus a lot of their time on more of their time, I should say, on other people and not enough time on themselves, honestly. And there's a couple of different reasons, in my belief, why that happens. The first is Virgos are very sociable people. They like to be with people. And the more socializing you do and the more people that you collect around you, the more needy people you're going to have. So that's one of the reasons. The other is that a lot of times when we have problems that come up in life, and then other people have problems and they come in, they go, man, I have this problem, and you jump on it and you go, okay, let me help you solve this problem. It really is easier to help somebody solve their problem than it is to focus on finding a solution to our own problem, if said problem exists. So it's really important, I feel, this week that you're honest with yourself in terms of whether or not you are doing that. Are you so busy focused on somebody else's problems because they are that needy, or are you so busy focused on somebody else's problems because it's an easy excuse to ignore the things that you have to get done? So that's really important. And I'm not saying that that is a thing, but it will be a thing at some point in your life. And I feel that this week something like this may come up for you, specifically around somebody that tends to have a lot of problems, you know, or this is a thing that happens a lot, if that makes sense. The other thing that I'm seeing for you this week is the word, I'm getting the word snafu. So I don't know if this is like a snafu in your school schedule. I do see it around school. It's almost like you're supposed to be put in a class and you're put in the wrong class, and it feels like it's going to take a couple of days to straighten it out, and it's really frustrating. It's actually something that should be a really easy fix, and it just doesn't seem to. I will say this: the Mercury retrograde is over. It ended last week, but there's always a week-long shadow period, and that week-long shadow period ends on Thursday this week. So if this is happening at the beginning of the week, a little extra patience really does go a long way, as much as you can, because these things, this Mercury retrograde has just been a lot of stupid nonsense bullshit. My phone's not working right, you know, this website won't load, I still can't get into my QuickBooks. It's just it's things that are annoying. They're not the end of the world, but they are making it difficult for me to just get shit done, if that makes sense. And so I kind of see that as playing into that just a little bit there. So that's what I have for you, my dear. Moving on to Theresa, my Libra Theresa. We do not have any planets in Libra this week. We do continue to have Ceres in Libra this week, and I do believe that, no, not this week, it's next week. And Ceres focus is very much on those you love, which is actually a good place for it to be focused on. Ceres is the great mother. It's all about having a nurturing focus, and you know, you being a Libra woman, that nurturing focus pointed at the people that you love the most, and you gather them around you. I mean, in some ways it's a beautiful thing. In some ways these people get on your damn nerves, you know. We always have both. There is no one or the other. We always have both. Libra's focus is on your day-to-day schedule. And so I kind of see this playing out for you as not so much, how do I want to say this? It's not so much that they're infiltrating your schedule, or, I almost see, one foot in each place. Like you're trying to work, but you're also trying to deal with somebody else's problem at the same time. It's you're trying to multitask and be the super mom, and it's just, I just don't see it working out very well. It's not that you are going to cause a bigger problem or anything like that. It's frustrating for you, and I see your energy being too spread thin. And when you have a job like driving a truck, you really don't want your energy spread too thin when you're behind the wheel of the truck. You have to be focused on what you're doing, because that's the safest thing for you to do. So I kind of feel a warning is good this week, to make sure that, when you're working, you're spending time working. When you're focused on helping your family, you're focused on helping your family, but you're not doing both at the same time. The other thing is, I see a lot of this mental hamster wheel going on. So a lot of overthinking about something. It's not helping. It's actually making you more confused and making things more difficult. So whatever you can do to calm that, meditate, close your mind, stop overthinking so much, get out of that hamster wheel. The more you do that, the easier it is to focus on what you need to get done right now, or to focus on the problem without all the other stuff infiltrating into that, if that makes sense. Outside of that, I don't see a whole lot else coming up for you this week. That overthinking is exhausting. I just have to put that out there. So if you're overly tired and you've been overthinking, it's good to be aware of that, because you'll start to see a pattern. When you start to overthink, your body starts to become exhausted also. That's even more of a reason to kind of get a handle on that. That's what I have for you, Theresa, and I'm going to move on to Regina. Scorpio's focus continues to be on relationships this week. And we're about to move into a focus on our day-to-day schedule, but we're still sort of caught up in this relationship thing. I really feel that this week, when we're talking about relationships, I think it's important to identify the relationship you have with yourself. And it does seem a little weird to talk about it in those terms, but it's absolutely necessary to really pay attention to whether you have a relationship with yourself or not, and is it a good relationship. And a lot of times, not saying that you're doing this, although we all do it to a certain extent, but a lot of times we start to identify that we don't have a great relationship with ourselves. Like, we tend to talk much nicer to other people than we do to ourselves. And I feel like this week you may actually have a couple of different instances coming up that will showcase how you're talking to yourself, and whether or not this is healthy self-talk, or if this is destructive self-talk. And destructive self-talk stops all growth, all development, all moving forward, all everything. It just stops everything. So I feel like there's a couple of opportunities coming up this week that will help you identify how you're talking to yourself, and then help you also come up with a solution to maybe help you talk to yourself in a way that's a little bit more profitable for you, for lack of a better word. The word I was looking for is just eluded me completely. The other thing that I'm picking up for you this week is, hold on, let me get a drink of my coffee. I actually am picking up on an opportunity to an opportunity to see somebody, and it's like, this is somebody either you haven't seen in a long time or you haven't really had the time to hang out with them in a while, and I kind of see you on the fence. I'm not sure if I actually want to pursue hanging out with this person this week or not. And there's an element of, oh, but I have to get up and get dressed and leave the house, and when it's cold, nobody ever wants to do that. But I kind of think you're going to regret it if you don't. That's my personal feelings. You don't have to make the decision based on that. I just do feel that you might regret it if you don't. So if you want to take that into consideration, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. It's entirely up to you. So that's what I have for you, Regina. And I'm going to move on to Theresa Sheppard. Focus continues to be on relationships. I actually, to be honest with you, I see a really busy week for you this week. Hardly any time at all to stop and breathe or do anything. Up late one night getting stuff done so that you can be up early the next day to be on a flight. Just a lot of running around. And my main concern for this week is not so much that anything bad is going to happen, more about your own energy level and making sure that you do what you can to keep yourself focused, to keep your energy on a level that it should be, not necessarily adding anything to that schedule that doesn't need to be there. But I am seeing sort of infiltrations into that schedule also. So it's like you're not here, you're working, but you're on the phone dealing with your husband's doctors or family members or what have you, in terms of what's going on there. So it's almost like I feel you being pulled into two different directions at the same time. And there's an element of that sort of justification of what you're doing and yet feeling guilty because you're not at home, and that's just going to add another layer of yuck that doesn't really need to be there. And it's just, I mean, it is what it is. This is your job. This is what's going on at home. You knew this was going to happen, and I'm sure this isn't the first time. So my biggest concern is sleeping, and the hamster wheel, the worrying and this and that, keeping you up at night. So meditations to quiet your mind are great. There's a billion of them on YouTube. Melatonin helps with that. It just shuts that off so that you can go to sleep. But you need to rest if you're going to keep up this schedule. It's really important to rest. The other thing is pardon me, we're out of the Mercury retrograde. We're out of the Mercury retrograde, but we're still in the shadow period through Thursday. So, and then the whole storm thing that we've been having here in California ends this week as I'm recording. Actually, it's ending this week. So we shouldn't have any of that here next week, but other places in the country are different. So I do see some, yes, Mercury retrograde is involved, but I see some weather related delays too, which are only going to make things more frustrating. So the more meditation you do this week, the better. I think meditation is the word of the week for you. And that is what I have for you. Moving on to Amanda. Yes, Mercury retrograde shadow period ends this Thursday, which is good. Focus continues to be on finances for Sagittarius. There are no planets influencing Sagittarius this week. I am actually seeing for you, it's kind of weird. It's almost like you make an investment in something and then panic, like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. And then it turns out to be okay. So it's like, I didn't really know how to describe it, but it's like the energies on a Richter scale. This is great. Oh my God, this is great. Oh my God. It kind of goes back and forth a little bit. It's really the only way that I can describe that. Two things come out of that. One, I feel like this, like it's very out of character for you to do this, but it's like this money you invested it without thinking about it, if that makes sense. Not to say that you didn't think about it, but it's almost like you went, oh yes, and then went for it, and then after the fact went, I really should have thought about that first. So this is your warning, okay? Before that comes up, maybe think about it a little bit more before you actually make the full investment. And I don't really feel like it's a ton of money. It's just, it may not be money that you should be allocating this week. Maybe we'll put it that way. The other thing, by the way, I do see you spending the money and getting it back. Like it comes back in through another source. So it's not the worst thing in the world either. It's not like the money is just gone. And I think, this is an investment. So we're talking about something that you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your business. We're not just talking about buying a fig tree because you want to, I mean, it's not, we're not throwing money away for nothing. There is a purpose for it. It's just, I see this excited energy going into, oh my God, I'm going to do this, and then doing it and then going, wait a minute, I should have thought that out. So maybe spend some more time thinking of that out before you do that. The other thing that I feel is coming up for you this week is I am very specific about your car, very specific about your car. I am being told to tell you not to drive places that you're unfamiliar with this week, okay? Could be snow conditions, could be rain conditions, could be landslide, could be all kinds of conditions. And I'm not seeing anything with the car specifically. I just see delays happening. If you let's say, for instance, you drive the girls to school and go, you know what, I'm going to take that long, pretty route, right? And then because you took that long, pretty route, you just cut 2 hours out of your day that you really needed for something else. So it's just, don't do routes that you wouldn't normally do this week, just to avoid those kind of issues and delays. That's what I have for you. Moving on to Sheri, my friend Sheri. Focuses on finances this month. No planets influencing Sagittarius, which is good because you guys are crazy by yourselves without any influence. And a little bit of, you know what? I think you miss a little bit of crazy, actually. This week is, I really feel that it's like, you've been doing so much responsible stuff. We'll just put it that way. So much responsible stuff. And it's like, I'm aching to stir the shit today. And you may actually even get your chance to stir the shit pot in some way. It may not be a good idea to, and then again, it may be a great idea to. I think it really depends on the situation. I would have to say that there may be a situation that comes up to where it's not necessarily that there's a problem and you're just trying to make a bigger problem for sake of making a bigger problem. This has more to do with you busting out with the honest to God truth. And I don't think that somebody's gonna like it. Then again, in my experience, my personal experience, nobody likes it when you just bust out with the truth. So it is what it is, right? But you may not be able to help yourself. That's all I'm saying. It's just been so long since you heard that lot. So I do see an element of that coming up. I am also seeing some money issues. Now, either it's the end of the month and there's just no money. One, you're trying to kind of get through the week, but there's also a possibility there of delay. So if I know Matt's getting on IHSS, whatever it's called, that we've been in a Mercury retrograde. The retrograde ended last week, but we still have a shadow period through Thursday. So there may be some last minute delays there. That's just, it's going to happen, but it will go through soon. So I almost feel like, it was in the bag last week. Everything was fine. It's supposed to be here this week. And then this week comes and it's like, just kidding. We need another week. That's kind of what I'm picking up from that. That's what I have for you, Sheri. Have fun with that. Maybe get a video of you stirring that pot so I can enjoy it. If it's entertaining. Moving on to Peg. No planets in Sagittarius. Focus is on finances this week. I kind of feel that this week there's a feeling that there's more going out than there is coming in. And so part of that sort of throws you into that place where you're racking your brain trying to figure out, more resources of money coming in, because it just seems like, everything's leaving and not enough is coming back in. I kind of, that seems like, almost feels like it's this time of the month, not necessarily the norm. But I just sort of kind of feel like there's a certain situation that comes up that sort of sends you into a panic. So it may even be a little bit more money going out this month, maybe for doctor bills, or get the car fixed, something like that, that just kind of puts you into this panicky spin of not making enough. I'm not making enough. I'm not making enough. And you're not going to find a solution when you're in that place. So it's, what to do, right? You gotta meditate that out and work through your panic, and work through where that panic comes from, the root of the panic, where that comes from. It is an insecurity thing. And then you can focus your time on a solution. If you need to come up with a solution, you may not need to come up with a solution. This, like I said, it seems like an isolated incident, not something that is a monthly bill that you're going to have to pay every single month. It's just an extra thing that made it a little bit tighter than you would like it. The other thing that I'm picking up for you this week is crafting. And I'm not saying that you're not a crafty person, but it's like I see you putting things together. So maybe I'm interpreting that as crafting, but it's like your hands need to be busy with something, and it has everything to do with creation and creating something. The creation is the word that's coming up. And you definitely want to be focused on what you're doing and not focused on any kind of panicking about something else, if that makes sense. And in terms of what this is that you're doing with your hands, or this craftiness, I feel this is happening for two reasons. One, because it sort of brings you back to balance, if that makes sense. It's almost meditative to do this. I kind of feel you have to do it in some way, or you made the commitment to do it. But I also feel there's a really good reason, like this, whatever it is that you're doing is moving in a very positive direction. I'm not 100% sure if this has anything to do with making money, or if this is more a personal goal thing for you. But either way, it's successful. I do get the feeling that it will be successful. That's what I have for you, Peg. And finally, I'm moving on to Mama Sheri. No planets in Sagittarius. Focuses on finances this week. First things first, I see a little extra money this week, which is good. A little splurging. And yes, I do see you splurging on yourself, but of course you splurge on the kitty cats more than you do yourself. But I do see some self-splurging, which I'm very happy about, actually. Because you've needed to do a little bit of self-splurging for a while now. But I am also seeing you making some financial plans. Either you're setting aside money to make a large purchase later, so towards something that you need that obviously costs a lot of money. I do see you planning for that. But I also see, actually, I don't see more. I see more than one thing. There's two different things there. So I mean, honestly, it could be setting aside money to get the kitty fixed and all of her shots and all of those things. Although actually I think that already happened, didn't it? Something to do with the animal, but it could be something to do with what you are wanting to do right now. Also picking up a little bit of lip from somebody about what it is that you're doing. It's almost like they have a sarcastic remark about what you're doing. That's their issue. Let it be their issue. Don't make it your issue. It has nothing to do with you. We're just gonna put it that way. And that's what I have for you. And that's what I have for everybody. Thank you for hanging out for the readings. Hey, if you want to be on this list, click the link in the description below. You could be on the list for as little as $10 a month. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you for watching. Make it a great week, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody.